Oh, oh shit! We gotta start the show.
Turn the dial to a starry night. Intergalactic light so bright. Dakota show so out of sight. Blast off now, take flight. Aliens and rockin' tunes. Country beats under the moons. Space dust in my boots all new. Gigolo's hosting soon. Welcome to the galaxy. Radio waves so wild and free. Tune and feel the energy. With Dakota ride the beat. When it's into every song.
I guess who's back? Back again. Hey. Oh, this feels good. This feels right. Dakota Franson, Intergalactic Gigolo. We are back online, baby. Oh, this feels good. This feels right. This feels like it should have happened. It should have been like this all along. How in the hell is everyone? Today is July 27th, 2024 at the time of this recording. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, hasn't it? So, some of you may be wondering, Dakota, what the hell happened? Where were you? Why could you only do like weird little music videos and try to copy the little faceless YouTube program that everybody else is trying to use? Well, here's the sitch, right? On the last episode of Intergalactic Gigolo, I was able to fully release to my intended properties. I revealed potential information that connected me to the Nazi UFO conspiracy. Not only did it connect me to the Nazis, but it also validated that there may be some truth behind that story. To what extent? That's still to be determined. But on the follow-up Franson Files episode, I went on further to explain how I'd been sitting on some information until I knew where it all fit in. Had a bit of a correlation thanks to the lovely Elena Denon that helped fit the pieces all together. And I also showed photos of my alien alter ego, for lack of a better word, standing right behind Adolf Hitler on two separate occasions, as part of his security detail nonetheless. And shortly after this information came forward, I had a couple of things happen. Some of you may have seen the community posts about a fan of the show, Arlen, who had recently passed away. Arlen was actually a family friend of mine. He and my grandmother got together after my grandfather passed away, and he had been having issues since 2020 relating to a bunch of cardiac issues. And during one of his recent hospital visits, it was discovered that he actually had leukemia. And at the lovely hospital down here in Twin Falls, Idaho, fucked up. They not only didn't catch it, but they completely did not document why he was in the hospital. It was not in his file. He had a stroke, and they did not put it into his file. So they had started to get him on radiation, and one day, as I was getting ready for work at my civilian job, I get a frantic phone call from my mother saying that while she was just like 5 minutes out away from her job, she was notified that the ambulance was being sent to my grandmother's, and because Arlen was having issues, and my grandmother, who is also a heart attack victim, started to have some severe chest heart palpitations, which understandable given the circumstances. So my mother was the one who made the frantic drive to try to help out everybody there. I went about my day, went to work, Then literally 5 minutes into me getting into work, I'm barely getting myself ready, getting my stuff together, getting ready to start what I need to do. Literally 5 minutes into work, I get another phone call from my mother. Maybe an hour and a half passed in that time frame. My mother is doing all she could to keep from crying on the phone to tell me that Arlen was gone. Exact cause of death, complications due to treatments for heart attacks and other cardiac issues on top of leukemia. There wasn't a funeral. Arlen didn't want to have a big fuss over things just because of family drama. My grandmother was okay. Hard-headed woman she is, she refused treatment from the ambulance, which, knowing the type of woman my grandmother was, had she not done that, I would have probably been a lot more worried. Like I said, that is a hard-headed woman. So, I was trying to take a pause for the cause to deal with that. Then, my computer started to go through Windows updates, no big deal. The update didn't look like it was settled right, so I tried to reset my computer, and that only caused further issues. So, that computer, I'm fairly certain, will probably need someone who's a lot more technical savvy than me to bring back to life. So, in order to still do the shows that we had scheduled, thankfully a relative was kind enough to let me borrow their laptop so I couldn't keep going. And luckily I was able to find myself a cheap laptop that had pretty close to the same specs as my other computer did. But my dumbass didn't check to see if the guy selling it was also giving me a charger. Don't yell at me. That's my cat Octavia trying to yell at me to go to bed. It's like 1:30 in the morning right now as I'm recording this. So that's what happened. Literally, as I said, a combination of a death in the family on top of computer issues, which seems like the better question is who didn't have issues with the major Windows technical outage, because once again, Windows rushed an update and pretty much made it to where, and the companies all involved in that software made it to where they recognized themselves as the fucking virus. This is the official explanation. They recognized themselves as the virus, so therefore crashed it down, and the fix that they were recommending was to have a bunch of people who likely did not have a lot of IT experience go into their computer systems and start deleting files, which, for those of you who don't know, if you go to delete the wrong files, you can actually make it to where your computer is not usable, especially with that. So, whether or not that outage is a contributing factor, I don't know, probably is, but let's not linger on the past. New computer's in, it's working, I've got it pretty close to set up to how I want it, so that way I can get back into the grind, keep providing these shows, and just engage with y'all a little bit more, because I miss y'all. It was nice to kind of unplug from the grid somewhat, but I miss y'all. I miss this. I miss creating, making stuff happen, building this company. And it was nice to have a little bit of a break, but I legitimately did miss it. But yeah, don't worry, I was not completely unplugged from society. I've been watching what's all been going on, and holy shit. Europe's got issues with migrants, we got talks of riots, the Trump assassination. Dear Lord. I was not planning on doing this third episode for Intergalactic Gigolo on a failed assassination attempt. My initial plan was to talk about artificial intelligence and how that's all coming forward, and talk about how, honestly, for those of you who haven't caught on yet, yes, I have started to utilize artificial intelligence programs to help grow the business, because I'm pretty much a one-man army at this point. So making good with the robots seems like a good idea. But let's paddle back a little bit. I know there's already a shit ton of conspiracies, and with this whole sequence of events that's unfolding before our very eyes, we're clearly watching a major conspiracy start to play out in front of us. Oh, Dakota, be careful what you say. You might cause another computer outage. It is what it is. So, let's backtrack a little bit. The dates are going to be a little bit off on my end, and please let me know what you all think. And if I say something wrong in the comments, please do let me know. But, all right, first off, let's just say this. Anybody who's actually paying attention, who maybe has a basic level of understanding when it comes to illness, cognitive disorders, basic medical understanding, right? Stuff that basically anybody can tell that something is truly off with the current president of the United States, Joe Biden. Something's been off for quite some time. I've been saying it for a while, and there needs to be some serious investigations going on as to what the hell it is, because either they are puppeting around a man who is clearly suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, probably a mix of both, possibly even had a stroke, just to keep up appearances. That if that is the case, it's seriously bold. But let's put that aside to fact right now, because let's also face it. When Biden has moments of clarity, it seems, you start to talk about information that you probably shouldn't have, but people are catching on. And being that people are aware that something has been seriously fucked up, COVID pretty much revealed to even some of the most skeptically, even some of the most sheep-minded people have realized that the way COVID, the pandemic, was handled, that something wasn't right. I still see people that occasionally wear around a mask, but and that's their choice. That's their choice. Personally, unless I'm working in with something that's going to be particularly dusty or moldy, or it is summertime. If a fire is nearby, shockingly, that hasn't been too bad around here lately, but I digress. Let's go back to what I was saying. Something was clearly off about Biden for a while, right? So here's where it gets to be interesting. Supreme Court rules that the president could essentially be pardoned for any crimes they may have committed while in office. Essentially, like how British royalty could be pardoned of any crimes they may be investigated of. There's been several potential child trafficking incidents that was shut down by Queen Elizabeth herself. Okay? Okay. During a speech 5 days before Trump's assassination attempt, Biden says it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. Now, could he have just meant that a lot more focus needs to be put on this man? Maybe. But that's not exactly something settling to say when a few days later, not even a week later, somebody tries to take out Donald Trump. All right, let's talk about this. Thomas Crooks, 20-year-old, clearly has some sort of issues, is stated to have gotten onto the roof of a nearby building that had a direct line of sight to the president. Police were inside that building. Secret Service acknowledged that he was a suspicious person for up to 3 hours before the incident. There's reports coming out that they've seen him stalking the area, basically scouting that very rooftop with a rangefinder, and did nothing. Director of Secret Service has even been busted, having said to the snipers that they should not take the shot until he starts firing. And it is pretty obvious that Thomas Crooks opened fire. I honestly could tell from the sounds in the video. There was a relatively lower caliber rounds that were being done, likely a 22. It's an AR-15. There's more than one type of barrel that can go into an AR-15. Yes! Shocker, shocker! Dakota knows about his guns. But nevertheless, it was a low caliber bullet. It could still do some serious damage, but it would not necessarily be something that would be out of reach. There were some people that were messaging me when it happened that were asking, first off, is this legit? They thought, okay, they knew that I like to play around with AI programs just to see what their capabilities were. I was like, is this AI generated? Did somebody falsify this? And I'm just like, no, it's real. Trump's been hit. Now, granted, the explanation from the official reports that are coming out from where Thomas Crooks was shooting, that would have been that last minute term Trump did. That would have saved his life. That is what saved his life. Now, granted, it's not entirely impossible that were he to get hit in the head, that he could have been saved, without a doubt, just with how the human brain works. But that would require a little bit more knowledge about, the bullet itself, wind trajectory, whether or not Trump is one of those individuals who has a physical genetic mutation that causes their bones to have a higher bone density, and which doesn't necessarily affect their quality of life, just makes it to where they can't necessarily go swimming, because the density in their bones makes it to where they can't physically float. They just can't, even if you were to strap a life jacket on. That's beside the point. There's a number of different factors to where Trump could have survived that shot. Now, I want to address these factors because I know there's reports of a second shooter coming from the water tower. That's the one who actually took the shot from Trump and blah, 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 blah. Granted, these are coming from people who are basing it off of a few news clips, and the people themselves that are trying to make these connections were not actually there. Was I actually there? No. Do these people actually know anything about how guns work? Not from my observations. But let's start here. If you're going to be taking a shot, even under the most ideal conditions, depending on the sight you're using, if you don't know how to calibrate your sights, you can easily throw yourself off kilter. Just even the slightest millimeter. This is where the phrase, you miss by an inch, you miss by a mile. The slightest millimeter can affect whether or not you actually hit your target. But now let's say, you got the gun properly calibrated, the sights are properly centered. When a bullet travels, once it's fired, typically as it spirals through the air, it tends to move upward a little bit, then come down. So you have to factor in the distance of the shot, how gravity would affect the shot, and how far the rounds would actually go. There's a lot of different factors that play into this. If someone overstuffs powder into the bullet, that bullet will essentially blow while inside the gun and just kill the shooter right there. Now, he used a rangefinder. He had a pretty good idea of where he needed to hit. You have to take into account wind direction, placement of your finger on the trigger, and your own breathing, your own heart rate. No one who goes to take a shot at a human life, regardless of the situation, expert marksmen they know they have to control their breathing, they have to control their heart rate, because even the slightest moves can throw off your shot. When it comes to finger placement, if you have the trigger resting too far on your tip, you can actually cause the gun slightly pull it to the left when you go to take a shot. Whereas you put it too close, or if you put it too close to the bend in your first knuckle of your trigger finger, that'll pull it to the right, or vice versa, depending on how you're actually holding the weapon. First, there's a lot of different factors. Clearly, Thomas Crooks was a loner. Seemed to be fairly intelligent, but a loner, and let himself get his emotions. Let his emotions get the better of him. Regardless of whether or not he was influenced by someone to try to take that shot, be utilized as a fall guy, which would be the standard MO, or he made that call on his own. The fact that the first shot did not immediately take Trump down, that would have aggravated him. So therefore, he's going to start firing off more rounds. And based on the trajectory of all those rounds, nothing that actually caused damage came from that water tower. And why would they just want to clip his ear? For all these people, they're saying, "Oh, it was it was the shooter on the water tower that got his ear." Nuh-uh, no. If they were looking to inhibit Trump's campaign, they do not make moves like this unless they are seriously threatened by an individual. Look at JFK. Look at Martin Luther King. I need to get a hold of that Dr. Pepper that represented the Martin Luther King Jr.'s family in the civil lawsuit. I would love to have a chat with him, especially with everything that's going on. But this is the standard MO. They will take out anybody who is a direct threat to their operation. There was a message I put out basically reiterating, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. Even the enemy is a fan of illusionists. Okay? But the thing is, it's pretty obvious that the true enemies out there, they're not caring enough about their operations to hide. They're not even trying to hide anymore. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because they're not trying to hide. They feel threatened. They know what's coming for them. Which means they're going to get angry. They're going to be upset. They're saying, you're probably saying, well, Dakota, that's good. That's where they deserve to be for everything they've done. Maybe that's the case. But they're going to essentially turn into an animal that's being backed into a corner. They're going to get reckless. They're going to get stupid. And unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of these certain types of cases, that's the only time these individuals can ever be caught, is when they fuck up. That is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Was there a second shooter on that water tower? Based on eyewitness reports, it looks like somebody was up there. It is suspicious beyond belief that the assistant director of the FBI was also standing right behind Trump filming the entire thing. Now, granted, given her occupational hazards, it would not be surprising that if someone were to open fire, she would be able to maintain a calm demeanor. But she was motivated to catch that bullet hitting him. There was something there. Something truly messed up is going on. And several sources have even predicted that Donald Trump was going to be a target for something real nasty very soon. And he will continue to be a target. I mean, hell, who hasn't figured that ever since a Kennedy was being put in the running for U.S. president, that there wasn't going to be some sort of assassination attempt? It sounds morbid when I say it, but let's face the facts. The veil is thinning, ladies and gentlemen. And when it comes to these types of situations, it is incredibly important that you wait until the facts are gathered before you make a solid judgment. Too many people are running around in circles. Too much chaos is in the moment. You have to come at these things with a clear head. Otherwise, you are only contributing to the problem. And you may be thinking, well, Dakota, I'm a nobody. I'm not involved in any of this. Yeah, you are. Whether or not you directly intend on doing so. Whether or not the person who happens to hear you or see your posts on social media, every single interaction, every single action, every single interaction, every single stimulus that we go through about our days influences what we do. Every single stimuli that we choose to indulge, every single TV show we listen to, every single song we may listen to, every movie we go to catch, any part of it, every person we go to interact with, every individual we choose to sleep with, every part of human existence changes how our brain works. It literally affects the wiring every single moment. As I am recording this, the wires are changing in my brain. As you are listening to this recording, the wires are changing in your brain. You affect people with every choice you make, every interaction you do, no matter how minuscule it is. To the individuals who are griping that how could he have missed? He was a 20-year-old loner, angry at the world. Didn't have a girlfriend, probably never had one in the first place. He was easily riled up. It would not have been hard to miss that type of shot. People who are asking these questions legitimately don't know how guns work, and they should really evaluate themselves. For a party that tries to promote civil liberties, equal treatment amongst marginalized groups, the Democratic Party has a lot of back history of being some of the most racial, prejudiced motherfuckers out there. Republicans too. It's on both sides. Let's not face the fact. The two-party system. The two-party system are each party is an ass cheek to the same asshole. No matter what, shit's still gonna come out. Both sides play it into it. This idea of us versus them has the notion. It feeds into the sense of tribalism, and that is what they want. As long as that sensation of tribalism, that you have to protect your own people, that this person is different because they have a different skin color, or this person loves individuals of the same sex, or this person likes to dress up as a fucking cat and go out in public, just because there is some sort of differential in that individual. These parties want division because it's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Divide and conquer. We have an innate sense of tribalism. We want to be able to protect our own. And as I said, every interaction we have, every teacher we have, every TV show we choose to watch, every YouTuber we decide to listen to, every conference we may be going to, every podcast you may listen to, everything we watch and indulge in ourselves in, and from the food we eat to the sex we have, everything that stimulates our body in some way affects our neurological programming. Those who are intelligent enough to monitor how these changes move forward have learned exactly how to manipulate it to such a degree that there's entire textbooks on how to screw with someone permanently. I have a couple of those books myself. And what do I mean back to what I said, even the enemy likes illusionists? The fucking CIA used to hire on street magicians to teach them how to utilize their magic acts for espionage. And it's come out that, yes, the US government has researched psychic phenomenon, UFO phenomenon, all for the purpose of espionage, all for the purpose of espionage upon its own people. Every country does this who has the technological means. The blue light that comes through most of our electronics, that can be utilized to mess with our brain signals. To the extent of, say, the Stephen King novel Cell that turned into the John Cusack movie? Probably, because it's found that electrical stimuli directly fed into the brain can affect behavior patterns. And it's been found that it can be done wirelessly as well. MK Ultra programming. This is not a conspiracy anymore, people. It never was. The only reason it was considered a conspiracy because it was a lot easier to hide when that term was first coined. And let's go into something else real quick. If anybody wants a genuine look at how these three-lettered agencies function, I genuinely encourage people to look up Andrew Bustamante. I've only corresponded with him a couple of times to try to get an interview with him for the show. I haven't met him personally. He seems like a cool dude. But he is former CIA, and he utilized a lot of his training from his CIA days to build his company called Everyday Spy that teaches people how to utilize real CIA training methods in their everyday life to better their life. Wouldn't that be interesting? I highly encourage to check that out because, once again, let's go to this interesting little fact. BlackRock, Vanguard, and there's another one that always escapes me. These are investment companies that pretty much own stake in just about everything in the world, every major corporation in the world. They own property, they own shares of all these different companies. They also own several shares, own a lot of real estate. Bobby Kennedy has openly talked about BlackRock and as well as these other companies to try to combat them for his presidential campaign. Thomas Crooks was found to have actually been in a BlackRock commercial. And obviously, as most companies would probably do, we're seeing it a lot with these groomer accusations we see with a lot of YouTubers, that BlackRock decided to take down that video, which again, most companies would probably do under those circumstances. But who's to say that they didn't keep Thomas Crook's information? Because I've been part of the Hollywood circuit for a little bit now. I've gone on auditions, haven't done any major big projects, mostly because I couldn't afford to, just drop a plane ticket and get somewhere in time. But I've seen enough to know how the business works. If someone of interest catches attention of, say, a casting producer or television networks or anything like that, even if you just audition, if your contact info is kept with that company, these companies will keep your information. They'll keep it as long as you don't end up on any blacklists. So, being that BlackRock has actually hired mercenaries to harass people, literally the mercenary group known as Pinkertons, the basis for the antagonists of the Red Dead Redemption video games. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, those guys are actually real. BlackRock literally sent armed mercenaries to harass a guy, threatening to kill him and his family because he accidentally managed to get a hold of, I believe, Magic the Gathering trading cards that weren't meant to be released yet. Small time YouTuber, nothing major. BlackRock owns major shares within Hasbro Toy Company that prints these cards. So, would they have the moral ambiguity to take a vulnerable kid? Let's face it, he was barely 20 years old. He wasn't fully fledged adult yet. He didn't exactly look like he had much going for him in the first place. Not to sound too judgmental, but would they have the moral ambiguity to give this guy a call and say, hey, we need your help. We want you to do this. You do it for us. We'll help you get into, I don't know, some tech school. That's usually the motive. Like I said, those of you who want to look into how the three-letter agencies work, look up Andrew Bustamante. He's an interesting individual. What needs to be remembered is that when it comes to all this stuff, yes, it's going to get chaotic. Yes, it is absolutely going to be difficult to even just go about paying your daily expenses, trying to get by paying your bills. But remember, no matter how hard things may seem, everyone else you see on the street is facing the same struggle of just trying to understand what's happening and just trying to live their life. Let's come together. Let's stop looking for every little excuse to cause hate and discontent. Because the more we focus on the us versus them mentality just because that person doesn't live life how you think they should. Now, unless that individual is causing harm, then absolutely call them out. But if we have to go into war, let's make sure we're fighting a war for moral reasons. If we have to go to war, let's go to war because we know that the enemy is doing something wrong and needs to be stopped because people are being hurt. And let's stop looking for excuses to enable people to allow them to go on their paths of self-destruction because you're trying to be understanding of whatever situations they may be going through. It's perfectly okay if you want to be there for them. But the second they start to try to take advantage of those feelings, try to guilt trip you, play victim, it's no longer about them getting over their trauma. And I stick by that. Because the more we reach out, the more we try to help one another, the more we better everyone around us, and the less people that feel broken. An ex-girlfriend once told me something that stuck with me. Yeah, we had our differences, but this was a very valid point on her part. She once told me that love doesn't hurt people, broken people do. And nobody who's right in the head would want to hurt another human being. Whether or not you believe in the gun control debate. An individual who has truly gone to the point of wanting to hurt others, wanting to potentially take their own life or the lives of others. It's not going to matter what tools are at their disposal. Taking away guns is not going to take away the fact that they're having those thoughts. Taking away knives isn't going to do it either. We need to realize that people are hurting and we need to help one another, because it's going to be the only way we're going to get through any of this. That's all I have for you today. I'll catch you next time. Episodes of Intergalactic Gigolo will be set up as premieres on the Bald and Bonkers Network YouTube channel, as well as being redistributed through our live streaming platform just to help hit more platforms all at once. You can catch this on the Bald and Bonkers Show podcast pages. I just funnel everything into one spot. Also, Wednesdays at, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT, the Bonkers Music Showcase will play new songs every week. The videos are already scheduled on the main Bald and Bonkers YouTube channel page, and they're scheduled all the way up until November. So, new songs every week, coming from Starlight Amnesia, myself, and a few other artists that are coming to the lineup. You won't want to miss it. My name is Dakota France, and I am the Intergalactic Gigolo. Spread love, y'all. Love, laugh, and get out and have an adventure. I know it may seem kind of rough to be able to set off some fancy adventure, but the more you get out there, the more you see the world, the more the boundaries of feeling like we're stuck in our own little bubble will melt away. Trust me. It wasn't until I started to travel that I started to break free from certain chains I had. Anyway, y'all, much love. Take care. See you next time.
Jamming all night long. Neon lights where we belong. Dance to cosmic throng. From the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond. Turning lives and spirits free. Dakota's rocking on. Whoa, whoa. From the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond. Turning